A very good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this virtual session of the Right Circle Jodhpur. Right Circle is an initiative of Prabha Khetan Foundation to promote English literature. These virtual sessions have been a blessing which has kept us all connected in these pandemic times and have given us the flexibility and the reach to engage more people. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest author today, Miss Anushka Jasraj. Two-time regional winner of the Commonwealth Short Story Prize for Asia in 2012 and 2017, Anushka Jasraj has her roots in Rajasthan. A 2015-16 fellow at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, she has a BFA in film production from New York University, an MFA in creative writing from the New Writers Project, and an MA in gender studies from the University of Texas at Austin. She was awarded the 2017 Stars at Night Emerging Winner Writer Award by American Short Fiction. Author Anushka Jasraj has just launched virtually her debut short story collection, Principles of Prediction, which lays bare her intrinsic view of fiction, which she sees not as a medium to communicate ideas, but as a way of transmitting moods, emotions, and other abstract concepts. She identifies herself as a feminist and, in her own words, just wants to be able to keep writing the things that she wants to write on. In conversation with her, we have the Ehsas woman of Jodhpur, Preeti Mehta. Over to Preeti.
Thank you, Shelja. Welcome, Anushka. Welcome to the Right Circle. We are very happy to host you for your first Right Circle session today.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I'm very excited because this is my first online event for my book, like officially. Not just with Right Circle, but anywhere.
So we wish you many, many, many more. So Anushka, you started writing at a very young age. When was your talent first recognized and encouraged?
So I guess my first big award was the 2012 Commonwealth Asia Region Prize for a short story that was called Radio Story. And that's it's historical fiction, so it's basically about ham radio operators during the independence movement, and that was kind of inspired by the story of my great grandfather, who was a ham radio operator. And I wrote that story when I was an undergraduate in New York, and I was just like sending it out, and the Commonwealth Short Story Prize had actually just launched their new initiative. So I thought, why not send it there? And then I just got lucky in some ways. But that was kind of when I then started to take it more seriously as well.
Wow. So was that the first story you had written?
It was the first really full-length story because it's almost 4,000 words, and before that I would write much shorter. And I actually like with that particular story. I guess the narrative was so meaningful to me, so I spent almost a year just working on it and revising it. So with that kind of commitment, it was my first time working on something.
That's good. But it was at a very young age. So congratulations for the award. And then how did your writing style evolve, say, with your other prize-winning story, The Drawing Lessons?
That's an interesting question. It's difficult for me to know how I've evolved. Maybe people who read the stories have a better sense. But from the perspective of the process, it's much easier now. Back then I was still learning the basics, so every little thing I had to really focus and make sure I got it right. But now I'm much more comfortable developing characters and creating a plot. So it's funny because Radio Story took a year to kind of edit and with multiple rewrites, and then Drawing Lessons for some reason was one of those stories that just in 10 days I'd written it and then I didn't change it. So maybe the process is what gets more comfortable.
Okay. But what drew you to writing short stories in the first place? You know, considering or writing, basically writing as a career choice, because there's so many uncertainties with this. You don't know if you're going to be published. You don't know if you're going to be accepted by your audience. So, what drew you to that?
Yeah, I guess partly like I've been lucky and maybe a little foolish. So I was like, if I've been able to do something that not a lot of people were able to do at that age. So maybe if I keep working hard, like it's something that I could actually do. But I mean, even right up until last year, I would still like not introduce myself to people as like a fiction writer. So I would try to make things up or say I'm just like between jobs or that kind of thing. So once there's a physical book, then I think that's the first time I could say like, okay, I'm a writer and I have a book.
Yeah, because there are so many uncertainties. So to be, make it a complete career choice. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I know other writers also who published a few books, and it's still uncertain because you don't know whether the next book
Exactly. Exactly.
so every time feels new.
And so, how has your training in film production shaped your approach to writing?
So before I started writing short stories, I was actually writing screenplays as part of my undergraduate program in film, and I like in my screenwriting classes, I found that because I was so much more interested in language and screenwriting is very sparse and it's much more visual. So the things I was writing were not actually successful as screenplays. Like I prefer to have, evocative language that's not needed for the screen. But it helped me to understand how plot functions and the rules of a story. And in when you're trying to write a screenplay or pitch a film, you have to get better at really condensing the plot of being able to um,
Yes.
tell that to someone who understands your vision. So maybe communicating that is a skill that like film taught me.
True. So, any plans of actually going into filmmaking?
um, I am not sure. So I do want to adapt my own work into screenplays, and
That would be
I,
nice.
I mean, I still love watching films, and there's always like, when I was 16, I mean, it was my dream to make films. So there's still that little kind of, childhood desire. Um, but I think partly I also enjoy having complete control of my work, which in film, like you have to have a lot of trust and allow other people to take your vision in other directions. Like it's almost an entire group's project rather than
Collaborative effort. Yeah, it is. Great. Hope you do follow your dream and we can see some movie made by you. That would be good.
And,
But what attracted you towards just short stories?
Mhm.
Because generally writers aspire to be novelists.
Yeah. Um, so I think it's still a struggle for most writers, and even for me, there was a stage where, even after I'd won a prize for my short story and written a lot of short stories, I didn't expect that it would ever be a book because, like, from a publisher's perspective, a novel is much easier to like market and it works much better. Like, I think maybe more recently is the first time we're seeing a lot more short story collections being published and given the same kind of attention. But I think the only reason I was able to do this was because of the short story prize, which has made it their mission to support short fiction. And so they've really pushed it. And then Westland approached me and asked, like, do you have enough stories for a collection? Even though I was already working on a novel, and I was like, I'll publish when that's complete, maybe someday. So again, it's like a series of fortunate events almost. Um, but I think in general also, maybe just for a younger writer like me who is like still learning how to write, the short story form provided a space where I could experiment instead of just, you know, committing to a very long 200, 300 page project. I could just try things out. And then that slowly just became a form that suited me.
Yes, but you do have a novel on your hands now, I believe,
Yeah.
and it's almost ready to go into publishing. Is it?
So it's ready to send to publishers who then have to decide um, what the next steps will be. So yeah, like I love working with editors. I think again I've just found fortunately a lot of people that I click with who really make my work better. So at this stage, I'll send it to publishers who will then uh, someone will hopefully pick it up and then work with me on bringing it to like the next stage.
So can you tell us a little bit about it? What genre is it in it, or what it's about? The new novel?
Yeah, so I my fiction is all mostly literary fiction, and this novel is kind of playing with the sci-fi genre. So yeah, the concept is this woman kind of wakes up in a place, and she she wakes up and she doesn't really remember what's going on, like what's been going on, and they like she's at a kind of hospital that's also like a spa, and they tell her that she's undergone a voluntary experimental treatment where some memory of hers has been erased, but she doesn't know what, and she kind of doesn't know whom to trust or what to do with this information. And then there are a lot of plot twists that happen after that.
Wow. Sounds very interesting. So when can we have it in our hands? When do you
uh,
expect?
oh my, I guess when I'll find out. So basically, like literally, people are, publishers are reading it right now. My agent has sent it out, and we're following up with them. And like sometimes it's a really slow process where for months they're still considering it. And then I've known people where like overnight some editor will say, "Oh, I really want this book."
Nice.
Um,
So we wish you the very best for that.
thank you.
Have you explored the new trend of microfiction? That's
Um,
very popular these days.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever written anything that would be microfiction. Like sometimes in a when you're a student in class, and you might do an in-class exercise that's like 100, 200 words, but yeah, I've never considered that as like the final product. It's more a way of brainstorming or thinking about ideas. But so one of my favorite short story writers is named Lydia Davis, and she writes these kind of paragraph length slice of life stories. They're like some of them are even just two sentences, but I don't know. I mean, I maybe I have to reach like another level of skill before I can condense it to something that's small.
Yes, because seeing as people are reading lesser than before, so that's why this genre is becoming more popular these
Yeah.
days.
And
Mm.
it's interesting also because sometimes the kind of length of fiction that becomes popular also has to do with the mediums that we're reading on. So like Instagram is like one square, so that's why microfiction works, or
Yeah.
like a magazine has a certain page length, so that's why short stories are a certain length.
Mm.
So I think,
True,
yeah.
true. Very true. Okay. Tell me, do your personal experiences have a bearing on the geographical setting or the protagonists of your writings? Or are they all a figment of your imagination?
um, that's interesting. I guess uh, maybe like sometimes maybe there's an emotion or a mood that you want to express, and so that then gets turned into something that can be communicated only through fiction, or like maybe that's how I feel about it, where um, it's there's no like clear way to communicate a mood, so you kind of invent a world or invent characters and settings to create that. So uh, eventually there's no bearing in reality, although like they are like the stories are located in India, in Bombay. There's one story in Jaipur. So in that sense, but those are just like maybe markers of real places to ground the reader a little.
Nice. Now, your writing has a strong feminist slant. I've seen that. So, and you did your master's in gender studies.
Yeah.
So, which led to the other?
That's interesting. I guess when I first started writing, I wasn't conscious that someone might read my fiction as feminist. It was actually one of my professors in my creative writing master's program, where he kind of described to me what he saw as the themes in my work, and that was pretty surprising to me. I guess I write very intuitively, so then I was like, okay, I guess these I am engaging with feminist themes, and I want to be more thoughtful and conscious of that, because sometimes you don't know what you might be unconsciously communicating, and you want to ensure that you're being sensitive when you're writing a story. So it was a good experience to do the masters in gender studies, but again, like academic ideas can be so like difficult, uh, that's so I didn't continue in academia because I don't want my work to be inaccessible in that way. I want I want my family and close friends to also be able to read my work, not just like some PhD students in a room somewhere.
Right. It's nice. Many of your stories in Principles of Prediction also, they end in cliffhangers, often urging the reader to maybe even reread the story. So, any particular reason for this unconventional approach?
Um, Sorry, could you repeat the first half? I missed what you said.
Many of your stories end in cliffhangers.
Oh, cliffhanger.
So, yeah, often urging the reader to reread the stories or to go back to it, to grasp it or try to understand what you're trying to lead the end to, sort of. So, any particular reason for this unconventional approach?
So that's an interesting point. I think ending is for me like the most difficult part of the story, because all
It
like
often, yes.
yeah, like I and it's really difficult because sometimes the ending can like rewrite your story. Like if you watch a Bollywood movie and the characters end up happily together, then there's a different idea that's communicated through that entire narrative. So maybe there's um, the kind of open-endedness also allows the reader to have their own kind of experience of the story, rather than closing it off in a very particular direction, or very strongly almost providing like a moral of the story. I feel like that's what an ending can do, which is difficult for me.
True, true. Nice. You're also mentoring youngsters. I believe you conduct creative writing workshops for teenagers.
Yeah,
So
so
please tell us about these workshops. And okay, yeah.
So my first few workshops will actually be this summer, because previously, so when I was a graduate student in Texas, I was teaching undergraduates as part of the university curriculum. So back then I used to teach freshmen. So it's like, helping them transition from high school into college level writing. So more recently, I've been working with high school students like here in Bombay. So the first workshops will be with Woodstock School over the summer. They have like online sessions and an on-campus session in Missouri, which hopefully will happen. Let's see. But yeah, so it's mostly like helping high school students kind of understand all these elements of fiction, like character, setting, plot, and then the outcome would be that they get to write their own short stories. And I think hopefully apply those skills also to like, all other forms of writing. Just
Interesting. And does your interaction with these youngsters also impact your own writing?
I feel like I'll find out in a few more years. um, but it
I haven't done too many years yet. Okay.
yeah, but I'm trying to think of in the past how my students have influenced me. I think it's more just the energy that they bring, because like they're so excited about writing that even if I've been feeling tired or like dejected, then I just see their enthusiasm and it's so nice.
Very true. You're also working as an education consultant or counselor, so to say. So please tell us about that role.
So that was last year. I actually quit that work in November, right when my book came out, because I had just like the book was supposed to come out much earlier last year, and then lockdown happened and it got postponed. So I really wanted to kind of give it the attention it deserved after like 8 years of working on it. So so I took that time off, but basically I used to work with 12th grade students and help them through the entire process of like selecting colleges and then creating their
Applications.
yeah, and then their essays. Mostly I just loved working on the essays because
Yes.
yeah,
And that is what the students find the most difficult, more often.
yeah, but a lot of times I think it's just they just need someone to kind of listen to them and provide perspective, and they
Very
have the answers themselves. So it's a like lovely process to see, because it's almost them developing their sense of self by writing this very significant essay in their lives.
It is, yes. So it must have been interesting. So do
Yeah.
you plan to go back to that kind of thing?
So I do want to, because I guess the writing workshops are mostly like a summer camp that'll happen, over the next few months up until August. And then let's see. I mean, it also depends on how much time I should commit to writing and kind of balancing things.
Very true. So what next? Where do you see yourself, say, 5 years from now?
I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I guess I've lived in different places so often. Like, every few years I was living in a new city for the past decade. So I'm almost just itching to live somewhere new. Like, I'm ready to move to Goa or Missouri or anywhere that I can. So let's see.
But you plan to be in India only?
Yeah. Now that I'm kind of building these workshops and the community here, so it's been really nice.
Yeah. But any plans for your next novel or writing? Have you already started planning for the next?
So the one after this one I haven't planned. I think the revisions on the current novel will probably take up this year.
This year, okay. So you haven't written anything new recently after that?
No. So that actually got completed. Like the draft was completed during lockdown when there was
Okay.
nothing.
That's so recent. Yes. Okay. Great. So it's been lovely talking to you. And Anushka, we wish you all the very best and hope that you be host to again with new books. And it'll be great to see you then.
Thank you.
We can take some audience questions now. Shelja?
Hi, we'll be taking questions from the audience. I request the members to kindly put forth your questions in the chat box and we'll take one by one. I now invite Preeta Balia to put forth her question.
Hi, Anushka. One, congratulations, because you seem to be doing very splendidly on the literary front. In anticipation of this evening with you, I actually went online and read one of your short stories, which was The Drawing Lessons. It came out in the Granta, I think, some time ago. And there wasn't any other free access, so I tried this one. And it's a really beautifully written story, and there's a tremendous tenor to it. But I was wondering while I was reading the story, that do you make a deliberate effort to sort of leave a lot of things unspoken and sort of unstated? Do you make a deliberate effort to not give a sort of very conclusive, stated, like a dovetailed end to your stories? Is that deliberate? And this is nothing to do with only the feministic themes. I'm just asking as a generic this thing. How do you feel as a writer about concluding?
Thank you.
Felt the same too.
Yeah, but thank you for like taking the time to read the story and.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure. I must say it was. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and buy your next books and everything, because it was just tremendous to see this sort of sensibility. I really thoroughly enjoyed them.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. So I should also mention that sometimes I forget what I've written in my own stories, as in I think like, I'm in a certain space when I write it and then I forget half of my own like writing. But so the ambiguous endings, they're not necessarily like conscious, but I think part of it is that one of my themes and one of the things with my characters are that they themselves like don't have the answers. So in that sense, the ambiguous ending is more in being true to their character of like not knowing what they want or what's going to happen next, or even how they are feeling. I think sometimes some fiction tries too strongly to like show black and white in terms of.
Yes, there's no moralizing, for instance. I was very impressed. Here's a young Indian woman who's not trying to actually moralize or take a stand on, because there are several characters who move through the story. There's the barren woman wanting desperately to have a child, right? And then there is this astrologer that she visits. There's the drawing teacher. There is her own maid who looks at her a certain way. So there are several characters that have flown in and out, but you don't seem to be passing any judgment whatsoever. I mean, like I reread and went back and forth and I said, this is tremendous in this political culture.
I'm so happy to hear that you felt that way, but because that is like, that's why I try to be like sensitive and thoughtful, because I mean, even in my own life, like, I'm not perfect. The people around me aren't perfect. So kind of also like, how do we live with that,
Yeah, oh, that's really nice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We shall now take Sarojji. Saroj Kaushalji, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Congratulations. I heard your discussion. Now I want to ask you whether you have you read the stories, are traditional stories in fiction like Panchatantra, Hitopadesh, Shuka Saptati, etc. Can we get inspiration from our old traditions and try to make it new in present scenario?
So that's an interesting question. I probably haven't read, the traditional sources in their original form, but I mean, I loved reading as a child. So like, Amar Chitra Katha and kind of the children's version of a lot of these stories were definitely things that I was exposed to. And I don't know, I think like when I was studying abroad and my professors would read my work, they would always say that, writers from like India or, South Asia have a particular quality to the prose. And I think like, so it's not like I've taken inspiration from traditional sources or from the languages in a direct way, but it's just part of, what created the way that I think of story and language. Like the rhythm of my speech has been kind of like built by, my family and by the stories that I heard. So it can't be separated from anything that I eventually write.
Now, I am teaching Sanskrit in the university, and now at present I am head of the department of Sanskrit. And I think that there is a lot of treasure in our old tradition. That's why I put this question from you.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, explore more of those texts. So yeah, maybe if you recommend something, I'll like read it.
You can read Shukha Saptati. It is very interesting. Then you will get how our old writers and prose writers develop the plot and the style of fiction.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarojji. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Shalini Goyal to put forth her question. Dr. Shalini Goyal, please unmute yourself. I would like to hand over the program to Shelja to continue further. Shelja, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Anushka, for sharing your story with us. It was undoubtedly a very candid conversation, and your forthrightness and charm personally blew me away. You have definitely made your mark as a short story writer, and we wish you more success in all your future endeavors. Thank you, Preeti. I would like to thank Prabha Ketan Foundation for giving the people of Jodhpur a platform, even in these pandemic times, to connect with eminent writers. I thank our sponsor, Shri Cement, and our hospitality partner, Taj Hari Mahal, and also our esteemed guests for gracing the occasion and encouraging us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. It was totally my pleasure to speak with all of you. This has been
Best wishes to you, Anushka, once again.
lovely.